Sahana vavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I have received a request to give a recap of what was said in the previous week, to begin the session today with a bird's eye view of a recap at what was said, for the benefit of those who have missed, and also to refresh our ideas. So I'll spend a little time doing that. Now, one of the important things I said to you all last week, to begin with, the very quintessence of the Gita, the very essence of Gita, or for that matter, the very essence of any philosophy, boils down to the word renunciation. In fact, I said, by merely repeating the word Gita mechanically, without getting into the spirit of it, you just repeat the word Gita, what you get is Tyaga. Tyaga is renunciation. And here is subject renunciation, which has been totally misunderstood. It is perhaps it is a blessing, which was a blessing from these great masters, we have made into a curse. Because every one of us shudder at the very thought of renunciation. We think renunciation, or to be a renunciate, is only possible for a certain class of people who can adhere to that kind of a life where they choose to live a life of a celibate. They have renounced the things and beings. They renounce their family, they renounce their business, they renounce their belongings, and have taken to the path. Resort to a particular place and then practice spirituality. How many of us in this classroom are mentally ready to do that? If we were to say that there's a yatra going to start from here, we're going to take those of you interested on a spiritual journey. I guarantee you it's a journey. But for that you have to leave everything behind right now. How many of us would be willing to board that bus? Your family, your belongings, your near and dear, everything behind. For the purpose you have come here. You have come here to learn the knowledge of the higher. I'll guarantee you will get that, but renounce everything and come along with me. I'll have to go alone. And I'm happy to do that. So, if that be so, if renunciation is meant for humanity at large, at the very forefront we all have disqualified. We have been disqualified because none of us can practice it. If Gita is renunciation, and if nobody can practice it, what is the purpose of this very renunciation? What is the purpose of this knowledge itself? So, I've said, here is a knowledge which is totally misunderstood. Here is an aspect which has done great damage to spirituality at large. Renunciation in particular is misunderstood. Now we'll have to clarify what that renunciation is. Perhaps that repetition will help you reiterate and clarify the misconception you carry as well. It's not easy to erase your past impressions. You agree with me, isn't it? It'll take a considerable effort to actually realign your understanding. Now, as I've said, renunciation is something which has to be practiced. Like, I'll give an example. A lady the other day happened to meet. We had a family visiting us, and the lady is due for a major surgery, and I could very well sense an anxiety in her. There's a lot of anxiety because she is going to go through a major surgery. And then the family, her husband told me that they have done enough study, enough survey, and apparently they are going to the best facility available in the city. They have the best doctor to attend to her, and there is nothing to worry as far as the procedure is concerned. And yet there is a lot of anxiety and unrest in her. And my simple advice to her was, well, stop worrying. I just told her, renounce the anxiety and surrender to the doctor. He will take care. Easier said than done. And the next question she shot back to me and said, Guruji, how is it that I got to renounce the anxiety? How do I do that? Where that lies the crux. There lies the crux. So what you have to do is, you don't have to renounce. Yes, you do have to renounce. But what have you got to renounce? Renounce the non-essentials of life. Renounce your anxiety. Renounce your worry. Renounce your attachments and enjoy life. I gave the example last week, if you remember. You renounce the wrapper and enjoy the chocolate. You renounce the peel and enjoy the fruit. But don't hold on to the non-essentials. So when they say renounce the lower, enjoy the higher. That is what they mean. But it's misunderstood. So renunciation is actually a blessing, and you got to do enough to actually benefit from that spirit of renunciation. And again, there is a misunderstanding. All those people who claim to be renunciate, what they are doing is they are actually renouncing action itself. In the name of spirituality, you know what they are doing? Being spiritual is to abandon action. So everybody actually VRS. They actually take VRS to lead a spiritual life. VRS is voluntary retirement scheme. They believe by renouncing their engagements and work, they can become a spiritual person. You remember what I told you all last week? People went up to the great Vivekananda and asked, what did he say? He said, go play football. Here is a knowledge which is given to a man of action. Arjuna was a man of action. He was impaired. He was paralyzed. He couldn't conduct his duty. He was obliged as a leader of an army to lead an army for a righteous cause. And he fell. The great Arjuna fell. So the knowledge was given to resurrect him, and it did resurrect him. He says in the end of the Gita, Nashto moha smritir labdha tat prasada achyuta, or Krishna, it is thy prasada. I have lost my moha. I have lost my delusion. I very well see what my duties are, and I shall do so. I shall fight this war against my own cousins and relatives and my guru and my grandsire. I'll fight against them, which was the reason he fell. In fact, there's a very, very famous verse in the Upanishads. In fact, in the Kaivalya Upanishad, there's a verse which actually supports what I'm saying. Because you may say, I might be saying something from my own imagination. There's a verse in the Upanishad which says, I shall chant for you. Na karmana na prajaya dhane na tyage naike amrutatvama nashuhu pare nanakam nihitam guhayam vibhrajate yadhyatayo vishanti vedanta vijnana sunischitartha sannyasa yogat hridaya shuddha sattva. Here's a verse from the Kaivalya Upanishad. It says this. What does it say? Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naike amrutattvamanashu. How do you attain amruta? How do you attain that immortality? Not by activity, not by progeny, not by wealth, but by renunciation one attains immortality. Tyage naike amrutattvamanashu. The ascetics well established in the Vedantic wisdom. Shuddha sattvaha. They attain that state through the practice of renunciation. So please do not renounce. What we have done is we have renounced renunciation. You have renounced, yeah, what have you renounced? You have renounced renunciation itself. But you've got to embrace renunciation so that you live a life of peace and bliss and dynamism. In fact, those people who are spiritual, who claim themselves to be spiritual, are actually, very sorry to say, they lead a very tamasic life. I'm not sitting here branding anyone anything. I'm only saying it's meant for our own observation. In the name of spirituality, you should not abandon action. Why shouldn't you abandon action? If anyone were to choose abandoning action, you'll pay the biggest price of abandoning. What is the price of abandoning action? Okay, now I am comfortably seated here, and you all have seen me. I can comfortably sit without any discomfort for the next hour and a half, an hour or so plus, no problem. But let's say you lock me up in this posture another 3-4 hours. What will happen, ma? Just put me here, lock me up, tight me up. I can't stretch myself, I can't free myself. What would happen?
Anger.
அது physically என்ன ஆக போகுது?
Both the parties get...
No, I'm not tying you up. Then I can understand irritability. If I keep myself tied up.
The purpose is lost or what?
No, I don't mean in that sense. I mean physically, if I am tied up in this position, what will happen? There is a certain pain, there is no blood circulation, there is a numbness, there is no activity. I'm just sitting at a place for 4-5 hours. No movement. I start getting numbness, stiffness, there's no blood circulation. I don't even feel my limbs. Okay, you sit for 2 days like that, what will happen? 2 weeks, 2 months, 1 year. What would happen? What would happen? No more. Samapti, samadhi. Now you see what is the price I would pay by choosing to lead an inactive life? By just not moving, by being at a place is tamas. Tamas is inaction. So this morning I chose to take these kids out to the park. 2 hours of constant activity, physical activity, to keep yourself fit. So in short, inaction is death. Action is the very energy that gives you life, that sustains life. Action is that which sustains, keeps you going. So in the name of spirituality, never abandon action. What do you abandon? Abandon your worry and anxiety, abandon the fruits of action, abandon your expectations, abandon your attachments, abandon that and live a life of action. Live as long as you can. The Shastras say, Shatah Samaha, live 100 years. You look forward for the next day. I'm eagerly looking forward for the day to begin tomorrow, because there's so much I have to do. There's so much of vibe, there's so much of energy, there's so much of enthusiasm. I see great happiness in what I would achieve by doing what I have to do. No. Life shouldn't be morose. I have to go to school tomorrow. Monday starts. I have to go to work tomorrow. I have to see my boss's face first thing in the morning, and rest of the day I must see that fellow's face. Worry. So much of pain, so much of agony. Renounce all that. You've got to learn to renounce. And if you don't renounce, what do you get into? In fact, this was clarification that was raised by someone who approached me after the class last week and said, "Sir, I didn't understand what you meant." One of the most important aspects of life, I mentioned, is the difference between having all the lovely emotions one has. We all have, beauty of life is to have emotion, isn't it? I can share my love, I can share my feelings, I can share my empathy, sympathy, I can forgive someone. It's an emotion. But that emotion, in fact, is a blessing. To have an emotion is a blessing. But when that emotion goes out of control, you become an emotional person. So to have an emotion is a virtue, you could say. To be emotional is a curse. You have done great damage to yourself by becoming emotional. The lady asked me, "Sir, can you please clarify what is the difference between emotion and emotionalism?" It's like having a sentiment and being sentimental about it. There's no harm having a sentiment, isn't it? But there's something not right of being sentimental about it. In fact, the great Buddha said, "A dry soul is the wisest soul." A dry soul is a very wise soul, he said. Dry means he didn't mean one who is devoid of emotion. What he meant is one who has a perfect control over his emotions. Now, what do you mean by control? Can anyone tell me? What are you talking of control here? When you say control your emotions, what are we saying? Very good. Okay, let's analyze the emotion anger. We all agree that we can bring the worst out of a human when that emotion anger overwhelms us. Isn't it? And we don't need a reason to get angry. You can get angry at a drop of a hat. You can just lose your temper. But here is an emotion. If you're able to harness it, if you're able to control it, you can actually correct another person by using that emotion. You can pull up a person. If someone is not behaving himself, herself, you will put on a stiff act. You will raise your voice. You will sort of throw tantrums just to drive home a message to a person. What you're doing is not right. Because there is no other way to correct that person. So what have you done? You have used the emotion, but you have never lost control over it. So emotion is a blessing if you have a control. But if you have no control over your emotion, is short of insanity. Now, how many of us can claim to have one's emotions under one's own control? Yet you have achieved so much in mastering the world. But the question is, have you mastered yourself? That's the mastery we're talking all about. Have you mastered yourself? You may have a genuine love for another person, but when you have that love, when you share that feeling, along with that feeling you carry a lot of expectations. You want your love to be reciprocated. You want your sacrifices to be acknowledged. And when somebody doesn't recognize or doesn't acknowledge your sacrifices you have done to your near and dear, what does it do? You get angry, it hurts. You become emotional. So you have one of the best of emotions, love. But yet love, which should give more comfort to you, causes more harm to you. Isn't it? In fact, you know who are the people who are causing most agony to you? Ultimately yourself. But it's not the enemies. You have all of us have some fellow out there, or some people out there, or a group out there who may not appreciate or like or encourage what you do. Isn't it? But it's not the people who hate you causing as much agony. In fact, the people who love you and you love are causing more agony to you. You know why? Because you have made the emotions stale. The emotions have become stale. There's a saying in Vedantic study, your home should be the center, not the boundary of your love. Your family teaches you what is love. You wouldn't know what is love, you wouldn't know what is sacrifice before having a family, would you? You have a family, you have a kid, you know what it is to sacrifice your comforts and conveniences for their welfare. Isn't it? Before that, you're a bachelor. You only think of yourself. It's only my needs, I do what I think is right. If I don't think right, I wouldn't do it. But when you have a family, you have to accommodate their interests, their emotions, their feelings, and say, will it comfort them as well? You start to know what is love when you have a family. But having created a family, what have you done? A China wall you have built around it. The Great Wall has become a barrier. Now you can't go, you can't see, you do not see anything beyond the family. So emotion has become stale. Anything selfish, anything impure actually becomes stale. It hurts you. So love is hurting you because you've made it stale. You don't know how to use it. So we're talking about a force to garner your energies for the betterment of yourself and others. So you go through situations where you become emotional. And when you are emotional, it's already too late. Then you go and start praying. Will prayer help? You go into prayer and ask for help because you're in desperate need for help. Will prayer help at that moment? Looks like you're very sure it will help, therefore none of you are replying.
It is only a consolation.
What a consolation. You are still appealing. It's like when I am sick, I am admitted in the hospital, then I am checking, do I have a medical insurance? I don't think I have taken a medical insurance. I don't think I have renewed it also. I knew I had it once, but I never renewed it. Is it of any use to entertain that thought then? It's all late. You have to bear the burden or the price of treating yourself in the hospital out of your pocket. No insurance company is going to insure you when you're on the hospital bed. It's too late. So when you find yourself in crisis in life, like when Arjuna was in a crisis in life, he couldn't handle. He had to have the entire Gita given to him, and thereafter he got help. But at that point when he needed, he couldn't get the help. So most of us in our lives are actually learning this knowledge when? A little later we realize it. Sorry, Ma? What did you say? It is once the situation, in fact you realize after getting into a situation, you realize I am not prepared to it. I don't know how to handle it. It's like you're entering the road to drive without knowing how to drive. You've taken the vehicle, you've taken the steering and you're driving, and then you realize, oops, I need to know how to drive. It's already late. Similarly, you need to know how to live life. Learn it before you start living a full-fledged life. And if you do not know, you have a series of mental accidents, one after the other, one after the other. It could be through my boss, it could be through my spouse, it could be through my parents, it could be my siblings, it could be through my neighbor, it could be through anyone out there, but you do not know how to deal with it, and then that causes enormous agony. So there is no use of prayer. It's too late, my dear. That's what Kabir says. Now we sang the Kabir bhajan today. I'm reminded of the very famous Kabir Doha. He sings, Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Jo sukh mein sumiran kare, dukh kahe ko hoye kabira, dukh kahe ko hoye. Isn't it? Dukh mein sumiran sab kare. When you are in crisis, when you are in trouble, everybody thinks of the Lord. Sukh mein kare na koi. When you are in your pleasant times of life, nobody has time for the higher. Nobody has time for these higher values. Nobody remembers the Lord. You are carried away in your glory. That is what the great Shankaracharya says, Ma kuru dhana jana yavana garvam. So you get garvam. Garvam, what is garvam? Arrogance. One develops arrogance in life because of dhana, wealth, prosperity, jana, a following, yavanam, youth. You have the capacity to produce, you have that arrogance of life. You know what I am, you know what I can do. When I think of that, one fellow comes into my mind right away. I can't afford to mention name. One look at him, his arrogance written all over. He thinks he's the Lord walking. And whenever I see him, I remember great Shankaracharya. Ma kuru dhana jana yavana garvam harati nimeshat kala sarvam maya maya medam akhilam budva brahmapadam tvam. Yarukku theriyum idella? Nobody has time for all this until it's too late. In fact, in the play called Hamlet, it's got Hamlet. You know, it's a tragedy. Hamlet is a tragedy by the great William Shakespeare. And the tragedy is Hamlet's father was killed by Hamlet's uncle. In fact, Hamlet's uncle kills Hamlet's father and marries Hamlet's mother within a month. Means uncle kills the king, who is Hamlet's father, and marries his wife, which is Hamlet's mother, within a month. It happens so soon, and Hamlet is so taken aback. And at the end of the story, when Hamlet takes upon himself to do justice to the injustice done to the great father, and the time has come where the avenger is being avenged, which is the uncle is going to be killed. And the scene is the uncle goes in front of a prayer room praying. Same. Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. He did all the nonsense and he never remembered all his acts. When the time came for him to repent and realize what he has done, it's too late. That time he's praying. And the words he's saying, in fact, he's doing the prayer, he's chanting, he's trying to sing the glory of the Lord, seeking help, seeking thy grace. And while he is doing that, he says, my words fly high. That's what prayer is, isn't it? What you do in prayer is, you're using high fly words. My words fly high, my thoughts remain below. Where are your thoughts? That fellow is coming to kill me. I know all the injustice I've done, all the wrongs I've done. So my words fly high, my thoughts remain below. My words without thoughts never to heaven go. He realized that it's too late. So if you are in a state of being emotional, remember you have not done enough to know the art of life or living. If you have learned, you will know how to manage all that is presented to you. Whether be it a positive emotion, whether be it a negative emotion, or we said the disease which the haves are going through in life. What is the disease the haves are going through in life today? The affluent society are going through a phase of life. What is the problems of the affluent society in the world all over?
Sleeplessness.
Sleeplessness.
Disturbed mind.
Disturbed mind.
Fear of losing.
Fear of losing. Depression. I've said that last week, isn't it? Whenever there is a depression, there is a sense of hopelessness has set in life. There is utter hopelessness. With all that money can buy, there is a level of hopelessness in their lives. But it's not the case with the non-affluent. Give me the freedom to say we all belong into that non-affluent category. Please give me the freedom. What is it that's driving us? A little hope. I get that sorted out, I think I'll be happy. I get this done, I'll be happy. So there is a hope that is driving us, isn't it? So even if you look at an affluent country or a society, there is everything that can be done has been done with reference to creating a very perfect world out there. Even to look at these places, they are so photogenic. They are beautiful highways, freeways. There is beautiful planning where everything is so organized, everything so systematized, the drivings are perfect, the buildings are beautiful, there is no speck of dirt or dust. There is nothing more you can do in terms of making the world a perfect place. There is no more hope for correction. There is no more you can do. How many times you relay the road? How many times you relay the lawn? How many times you will reconstruct the building? There's that much you can do. So their worlds are a very perfect place. Unlike you go out, you see in India, roads are not there. If roads are there, driving is ulta. Sometimes I wonder, am I driving correct? Because opposite traffic is more than straight traffic. Am I in the right direction? Huh? Other day I saw a lorry coming in opposite direction. For a moment I thought, am I in the right direction? Where am I? We believe if this can be set right, life will be better. So there's a hope that's driving us. But the moment there is depression, that means, what does it mean? Now obviously there is no hope, there's a complete hopelessness. But what does that depression suggest? Why is it, what does it mean? Obviously there is no satisfaction. But what does it mean? The bottom line is they have neglected their own development. The subjective aspect of life has been completely neglected. And as long as you don't realize that, you will have some reason to complain, you will have some reason to feel life is amiss, something is amiss in life. There, as you rightly said, there is no satisfaction because you have not addressed yourself. You're all the time taking care of the world. You know, let's say if I were to allow you to come back into this auditorium later in the night, there is no light, pitch darkness. And if I were to tell you, I know I have left something on the table, on the stage, can you please go and fetch it for me? Yes sir, I'll do that. You somehow find your way up to the stairs, you come to the door, you somehow manage to unlock the key, and you're into the auditorium. What happens? In fact, right through coming up, you have been hitting yourself in the nooks and corners. And once you enter the auditorium, you start hitting yourself into the furniture and the fittings, and you're not able to find your way, isn't it? Forget finding what you come here for, but you're finding it difficult to actually sail through all that is around you. You come back and say, sir, things are pretty ill-organized. What I'll do, I'll go and arrange it next morning and come back at night again to get it. So what you'll do, rearrange everything in the auditorium and come back again at night to get it. What will happen? The same thing will happen. Third day you do the same thing. What will happen? Sudhakagaru, emotundi. You will send someone else to nicely organize the chairs, furniture, everything neatly organized. You draw a T and say, please put everything perfect. Easier for me to go through the aisle and get to exactly where I want. Everything is done. But then what will happen? Same thing will happen. You will hit yourself with the fittings and furniture, nooks and corners, and you say, no, I think something is not right. Let me set it right. You set it right. Third day, fourth day, 10th day. What will happen? Same thing will happen. But if you are a wise